Welcome to Vine Chat, a nice little offshoot of Wild Wine Life. I am Ray Maxwell, and we are honored to have Kyle McClellan of Brace for Impact with us today to sit down and have a little chat. And also, you played for the Cardinals a little while, didn't you?
I did for a few years, yes.
Just a few years. And had a lot of fun along the way.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you for joining us. Have a little cheers. And
cheers.
The big part of Vine Chat is just a fun conversation over wine. And Kyle, you're married to your wonderful wife, Bridget. You have a son, a daughter. You grew up here in St. Louis, graduated from Hazelwood West, kind of things that everybody in St. Louis know about.
Yep.
Along with the 2011 magical year of the St. Louis Cardinals. But let's start with Brace for Impact. You had mentioned that you had a life-changing trip in 2014 to Haiti. What was so significant about that trip that just inspired you to start Brace for Impact?
Yeah, so you kind of goes back to my history of, growing up here in St. Louis, having the opportunity. I was drafted out of high school by the St. Louis Cardinals, spent 6 years in the minor leagues, 5 years in the major leagues, won a World Series here. And during that whole time, my wife and I were looking for something we could do to give back to the community. It's where I was born and raised. It helped produce me and provide what I needed to reach my goal professionally of where I wanted to be, and then ultimately that ultimate goal of winning the World Series and being on a team that's a World Series champion. And so we wanted to give back, and we had a hard time finding that. And I'm not somebody that just puts my name on something and kind of shows up and waves to the crowd. I wanted to be involved with it, and as did my wife. And so as we were looking, I think understanding the height of my platform as a player in St. Louis might not have been the best time for us to start that charity. And kind of to elaborate on that, it's for me to be a Major League Baseball player and to be successful. It took so much focus and concentration and dedication. And I tried, being in my hometown, I really put myself in a bubble so that I could be able to perform on the field. And so I tried to eliminate a lot of those things off the field, and even things like, running a charity and being involved in that. I just didn't want that to take away from my production on the field. And so it just wasn't the right time. But we had put money away and waiting for that future opportunity. And in 2014, that opportunity came via Adam Wainwright and his wife. And they said, hey, I had talked to Adam a lot about our giving, and Adam and I align very similarly on almost everything. And so we had great conversations. He was a great role model and mentor for me. And in those discussions about, hey, what are some things we can get involved with? He said, why don't you come with us on this trip to Haiti? We got involved with a children's home over there. Jenny and I did, and we're going to see it for the first time. So why don't you come with us? And so Bridget and I went on that trip, and it was life-changing for us. It was what it opened up for us was, we didn't want to get involved internationally. We wanted to be local. We wanted to be in St. Louis and find that work here. But what we learned, and now I look back 8 years later and can say, okay, there's a reason we started in Haiti, and that is because we learned so many lessons during that process of how to truly help people in a way that produces fruit. So we learned those lessons through a partner of ours that's been in the nonprofit space for 20-something years, and we were able to kind of speed that process up through him. Come back to St. Louis 2 years later, and then we were able to find our local project that we were able to get involved with, and have been extremely successful in both. And I think it's because of the timeline and the way we did it, and the lessons we've learned and applied along the way.
I think it's really cool that it's not just Haiti, but something locally as well. And one of the things I really love is your long ball, long game approach to Brace for Impact, that you really not just focus on helping the families on the here and now, but you focus on education for the children that you're helping, that it's like it's planting the long-term seeds within these communities. Can you speak to the importance of how education helps your vision to assist the greater good in the long term?
Well, that goes international and local, right? I mean, education is, I think it's something that we take for granted, especially if you haven't traveled internationally or seen things outside of kind of the structure and system we have here in the United States. When you get over to Haiti and you realize that majority of the people are not able to read or write, majority of people in the population are uneducated because one of finances, lack of finances, and two, because they have to provide for their family. So at young ages, the kids are going to get the water, or, providing things that the family needs to survive. And that's hard to see. And when you think about, okay, how do we get out of this situation? If you're not educated, that's a much steeper hill to climb. And so where we were able to come in Haiti and say, okay, it started with the children's home. It's fine to have them in this environment that's safe and can provide things for them, but now we got to educate them. And so then it started with the school. We started with, I think we had like 70 something kids in the school from the community and our kids in the children's home. Now we have 440. Grown a grade every year, just completed a high school, so we're able to take them from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And I can tell you one of the best things that we see down there on our trips is when you stand there and watch the kids from the community come into the gates knowing that they're getting an education. We also had to improve that schooling through a feeding program. So on Mondays, the teachers were telling us the kids aren't good. They're not able to stay awake. They're not paying attention. The behavior's not good. Well, we sent a survey out and figured out the kids aren't eating on the weekends. And so we started a feeding program where we feed the kids every day at school at lunch. And it's a lunch that my wife and I have always said, it's a lunch that we would be proud that our kids would eat every day. It's not just feeding them just to feed them. It's feeding them to provide what they need, for their body, nutrition-wise, for their body development-wise, for their brain development and all that, so that this education they're getting, they can actually use it and apply it and make it work. And so, that was a big part of our education piece down there. We'll flip that when you come to St. Louis, the area we work in North City, St. Louis. What you learn with instability of families moving from house to house to house is that their education takes a hit from that, because kids are now jumping into different schools, or their transportation to get to those schools. So they're not able to get there. So their tardies, their absences are very high. And so by stabilizing that family and giving them a home, a place they can stay at long term, now is going to give the stability to those children in the home, to where they can now have that consistent education. So that's been a huge piece. Just the stability piece here in North City really is a main focus of the family. But what that stability brings, kind of the trickle down effect of that stability, has such an impact on these families, and particularly the kids. So the two programs we run are different, but there's a lot of similarities. Just the circumstances are different, and the things we have to provide, but the end goal of both programs are exactly the same.
That's really neat. What do you think is the greatest accomplishment Brace for Impact has made in those two? Or or is that just kind of a repetitive question?
Well, I mean, it's in my baseball career, people would say, like, do you ever sit back and think about, like, what you've accomplished? And I'm like, no, because I'm still in the middle of it. Like, you don't want to sit back and reflect now. When I'm done, I can sit back and tell those stories and think about, like, but in the time you're kind of going. And same thing with the charity. Like, there's still work to be done. Like, we've done a lot. We've helped a lot of people, but man, there's still so much to do. And so you kind of just keep your head down and keep going. I would say if I had to give you one thing, I would say our ability to work well with others is something that unfortunately seems to be a little rare in the nonprofit space. The nonprofit space is very territorial, very, well, these are our donors, and this is my donor, and you can't be, trying to take away from us, and this is our area and our program we run. And our partner that we have in North City, St. Louis, is incredible at working with other great nonprofits and agencies in North City to help do what we do. We can't do everything. We're not good at everything. And so if we don't have it and we're not good at it, and when there's somebody else that's doing it better than us, we are happy to partner with them to help the overall good of the community. In Haiti as well, there's really two main partners outside of us that we all work together and pool our money together and get to do this. And because of that, we get to be a part of something so much greater than we could ever do on our own. And so we get to see the effects of that and how many more people we get to do just by simply working well together. Not trying to take credit, not trying to, be the one to out there selling your brand or your name or your organization, but truly saying, hey, we're putting the people first, and what do we have to do to reach as many people as we can? Now, you got to have the same vision. That vision has to align. That's a big part of it. I'm not saying, that you just grabbing anybody and everybody and making a partnership. You got to be in the boat going the same direction, but we've been able to accomplish that.
We'll be back with more Wild Wine Life right after this break.
Sounds great.